How's it going, guys? So we're about halfway through the year. I've been able to get quite a few rounds in. I've played in a tournament or two and finally have a pretty good feel of what I'm going to be throwing for the remainder of this season. So I thought I'd take some time today and show you what's going to be in my bag for the remainder of the 2022 season. Let's start up top with the putting putters. No change to this year for the putting putters. I'm still going to the OG blend Jawbreaker Roaches. These are the same ones I had in my bag last season. What I still continue to like about the Roach is it has a very straight flight to it, lots of glide, but still enough stability to fight the wind. So these are continuing to be my putters. Been going to these for about 5 years now and don't see myself changing in the future. So OG blend Jawbreaker Roaches. As far as throwing and approaching, keep it pretty simple. Still throwing a lot of zones. Right now I've got 4 of them in my bag. I've got my Jawbreaker zone. This is broken in now. This is what I'm using for more turnover shots. I can hyzer flip this one. So this one gets used a lot for approach shots, or if I need something to carve a fairway in the woods or something like that. Really like using the Jawbreaker zone for that. Also carry 2 X soft zones, one that's more broken in. I'm using this one a lot more for straight shots, especially at high speed. This one still has enough stability to hold up to some power, but a little bit straighter now. And then I've got my brand new one that I'm using a lot more for overstable approach shots, something that I want just to kind of hit the ground and sit. This is really good for both backhand and sidearm shots. And then the last zone I like to carry is probably one of my favorite discs in my bag. Still have the Big Z zone in the bag. This one is about 2 years old now, very stable still, even as much as it gets used. Using this for both backhand and sidearm approach shots. And don't see this leaving the bag anytime soon as well. This is an incredible disc for me. It's been with me through a lot of different rounds and one of my more consistent discs. So the DISCRAFT zone, one of my favorite discs for sure. Got a couple of approach discs that I like to use. These are discs that don't get used a ton, but they're really good to have in the bag for those different types of situations. So I've got one X Soft Ringer. This was in the bag in and out last year. But I use this a lot for understable approach shots, or if I want to give something a longer bit at the basket that might be out of putting range. The Soft X Ringer is great for that because just like the X Soft Zone, being in a softer plastic, it really likes to grab the ground and just kind of sit. So this is a really good approach disc for me. And then a new disc to the bag that has been a great surprise for me has been this ESP Glow Sole. Flies a lot like my Soft Ringer, very flippy. Don't use it off the tee a whole lot, but I really like using it for anything about 200 feet and in that I want to give some sort of bid at the basket. I don't have to give this a lot of snap or anything like that. It really just has a ton of glide to it. So very accurate disc, really good, again, for about 200 feet and in. The ESP Glow Sole, really good addition to my bag for this year. Going into my mid-ranges, got one ESP Meteor, same one that was in my bag last season. This one still has a ton of life left in it. I like using the Meteor for anything about 330 and in. Really good in the woods. This is mainly what I'll use this disc for those hyzer flip shots that I want just to stand up and glide a long way. The Meteor is great for that. Right out of the box, this is going to be a hyzer flip disc for me. So one of my most reliable mid-ranges and one that I, again, lean on a lot in the woods. After that though, if you follow me at all, you know my favorite disc is the Buzz. I've got 4 of them in the bag, all different stabilities, all different uses. I'll start with the one that's been with me the longest. This one's been in my bag for about 3 years now. Not quite as understable as the Meteor, but really good hyzer flip disc that has a little more stability at the end of the flight. This Buzz, again, has been with me for a while, so I've seen it in all different stages of wear and really enjoying this one where it's at right now. This is one of my go-to discs, one of the ones that I lean on both out in the open and in the woods. So ESP Buzz. Got another one with the Huck Lab die. This is my straightest flyer right now. I can throw this one as hard as I want. It doesn't really turn right, doesn't really fade out, just goes point and shoot, dead straight. Really good disc. Probably one that I probably throw the most out of my Buzzes just because of the current stage that it's in. So Huck Lab Buzz, very essential disc in my bag. Then I've got the new Tour Series Z Swirl Buzzes. Feels a lot like ESP to me. But this is kind of your standard Buzz right out of the box, very straight, nice reliable finish at the end of the flight. I always like to keep a fresh buzz in the bag, just one that I know exactly what it's going to do every single time. And this is just that straight flight, little bit of finish at the end. My last buzz is more like a wasp. This is a flat top buzz. This one is probably the most overstable, just stock run that I've ever seen. Again, very flat, but it flies more like a wasp. It's kind of perfectly in between something like my Buzz OS and then some of the other buzzes that I have. But I'm really enjoying this. It can hold up to a decent headwind and still come back and finish. But I'm using this a lot more when I want that buzz flight, but just a lot more finish at the end. So this one's been a really good surprise for me, and I'm really happy to have this one in the bag this year. After that, speaking of the Buzz OS, I do carry one Buzz OS. This is my glow one. I rarely use this for backhand. This is almost an exclusive sidearm disc for me. This one has filled a slot for me that I didn't know I really needed until I threw it. This sits somewhere in between my Raptor and my Zone, which is a shot that I, again, didn't really realize that I needed that much, but really good mid-range. I really like throwing this one, again, for sidearm just because it can handle that torque. It's not going to turn over unless I force it over, but I always know that it's going to come back and finish to the right for those sidearm shots for me. But fights the wind really well. Again, just a step up from my Zone, somewhere about 300 feet in is where I like to use this one. The next disc in my bag is a utility disc that has been in my bag for about 2 years now, and that is the Z Extreme. This is a disc that gets used almost every single round I play. I use this for backhand and sidearm shots about 300 feet in. I use it mostly for low line skip shots or some sort of spike shot, but again, just a really good utility disc for those 300 foot and in shots. Very consistent. I know what it's going to do every single time. So the Z Extreme, everybody needs to have one of these in their bag. Going into the fairway drivers, start out with my understable one. I've got the ESP Heat. The Heat's a disc that I've had in my bag ever since I've been on DISCRAFT. This is my favorite understable fairway by far. The amount of glide that this disc has is unmatched. I really like throwing this in the woods where I need a turnover shot, or if I want to take some speed off of it, I can get it to hyzer flip and just ride straight for days. Really good for tailwinds as well. So the Heat, great disc for beginners as well as open players or advanced players. Definitely recommend checking one out. Love having this in the bag. After that, going up in stability just a bit, I've got two Undertakers. I've got my ESP Undertaker. This has been in the bag for about 1.5 years or so. Really good for straight shots in the woods. This one's starting to get a little more beat in, so I can throw it a little more on hyzer, get it to stand up and drift. But it does have a late finish to it, but a lot like my Buzz, but in a longer flying form. I can get this disc to do a lot of different things for me. And then I have my ESP Huck Lab dyed Undertaker. This is kind of a Z blend ESP, so it's a little more stable for me. I like throwing this one hard. I know it's going to go straight. It's never really going to flip over unless I throw it into a headwind. So it's really straight, a little bit of finish at the end, nice and controllable with lots of glide. So Undertaker, one of my most used fairway drivers for sure. Just a touch up in stability from that would be my Z Tracker. If you know me at all, you know I love the Tracker. I think it's one of the most underrated molds in the DISCRAFT lineup. This is going to be that nice controlled fairway slot that I can just pump out there 350 or so, just on a straight shot with a good amount of fade. I know it's going to hold up to the wind a little bit more than my Undertaker, but it doesn't have quite the stability of something like a Raptor. So this fits perfectly in that slot. Again, nice and controllable, know what it's going to do every single time, no matter what the wind's doing. So Z Tracker. Speaking of the Raptor though, I do carry two Raptors. The Raptor is a disc that I think every player needs, especially for those windy days. I've got the Tour Series Paul Ulibarri Raptor. This one's been in my bag, I think maybe 1 year or so. This one's getting a little more glide to it now, so I can push my sidearms a little bit straighter before it fades out. Still has that really good stability to it, but I know again that I can push it out just a little bit farther than some of the other Raptors I've thrown, including the brand new Glow Raptor that I just put in the bag. This one's a lot more overstable. I've tried out the Captain's Raptor and disc like that, but I just keep going back to the Raptor. It's just something about the feel in the hand, and this flies a lot like a Captain's Raptor. Maybe not quite as overstable, but very similar. and it's just a more comfortable feel in the hand for me. So Glow Raptor, very important disc for me. Anytime it's windy or if I just need a big overstable shot, I know that I can throw this and it's going to do the job every single time. My last kind of fairway driver, this is kind of a hybrid between a fairway and a distance driver, but that is the ESP Vulture. As you can tell, I like to carry duplicates of certain discs. If they feel good, I like to have them just a little bit different, just depending on the wind or the type of shot that I need for it. So I've got one that is more broken in. I'm using this one for about anything 400 feet and in. If I need a little more distance than something like a tracker, but not quite the distance of something like a Zeus, this fits perfect. So for me, that's that 400, maybe like 380-ish range. I like using this disc. So again, what I like about the Vulture is it is very controllable, but I also know it's going to get me a lot of distance. So this one goes a little bit farther, and then I've got one that's a little bit newer, a little bit flatter, and more overstable. So this one will fight the wind just a little bit more. Doesn't go quite as far as the last one, but still pushing that distance out there while still getting a good amount of fade. So ESP Vulture, really good disc to have. All right, and last but not least, let's get into the distance drivers. One disc that I've had in the bag for a while now, and thankfully I haven't lost it, is the ESP Hades. This is a disc that has been very surprising to me. You know, it is understable. If you've followed any of my other videos, you'll see me throw this, and it's definitely flippy, but I've got this pop top run, and that just gives it a little extra stability. So I'm really liking this for big turnover shots or anything with a tailwind. I know that this will probably be the farthest flying disc I have in a tailwind, and so it's really good to have. Doesn't get used as much as it used to, as it's starting to get broken in a little bit more, but it's still flying far for me, and I'm still finding uses for it. So ESP Hades, definitely a great distance driver, especially if you've got a lower arm speed and you're ready to start stepping up to those 12-speed discs. I would recommend checking out a Hades. After that, I've got 3 Zeuses in the bag. These are my primary distance driver. I know that I can have good control with these. They've got a great amount of stability and they go far. So I've got 3 of them. I've got this one right here that is more broken in. This is probably my main distance driver at the moment. I can use this for big hyzer flip S curves up to about 450 or so. That's about where I top out with distance. But it goes pretty far for me. Good amount of glide, nice stability to it, and again, probably the one I'm going to reach for if I'm just going for max distance. After that, kind of my medium stability, something that will go far but still fight the wind, is this purple Zeus. I'm using this one a lot for calm days where I want to have a good stability, just something straight, nice fade. This is what I'm going to be using for just good, smooth, controlled 400 to 420 type shots that I want just to stay in the fairway and get me close to the basket. And the last one I have is the same one I had last year, this green one. This is still overstable. This is my primary forehand disc where I know I can really get into it. Don't have to worry about it flipping over. I know it's going to handle the wind every single time, but it's going to give me a good amount of fade compared to the other ones. So I know that this one's going to it's going to get to the basket whether that's left or right, no matter if I'm throwing backhand or forehand. This is going to fight the wind for me and do the job. Another new addition in the bag for me this year is the ESP Nuke. I put one of these in the bag and I've been just amazed at how far this disc will go. This is a disc that I've tried out in the past and just haven't had a lot of success with it. It's something about the feel, but the more I've thrown this one, the more I continue to be amazed at it. I'm using this for both backhand and sidearm shots. Still learning it a little bit, but I'm really using this a lot for distance sidearm. So if I've got a big open field and maybe the basket's off to the right and I want to make sure the disc is fading toward it, I threw one of these the other day about 420 on a sidearm, which for me is farther than any other sidearm I've thrown. So this is continuing to amaze me at the amount of distance it can get, and it's one I'm going to continue to work with. So the ESP Nuke, one that I've really been surprised by, and I'm definitely going to try some more out in the future. The last disc in my bag is almost a utility disc for me. This is an ESP Force, but for whatever reason, this is just the most overstable force I've ever thrown. I used to throw a ton of these things, and I've never found one that's quite this overstable. This likes to get to the ground pretty much as soon as it leaves my hand. So this doesn't get used a ton, but whenever the wind picks up, or if I need to make sure I'm finishing off to the right for a sidearm or to the left for a backhand, and I really want the disc to finish hard, I reach for this every single time. This doesn't even go that far for me, even though it's a distance driver. I'm only getting this one maybe 350, but it's a good disc to have, especially when the wind picks up, as I mentioned, and a good utility disc for me. Well guys, that's it. That's my entire in the bag. I hope you enjoyed watching this. Let me know what molds I should have in my bag. Let me know about some that you've been enjoying that you think I should try out if they're not in my bag. But beyond that, let me know what's in my bag. Let me know what you also throw and what you've been enjoying. But I hope you enjoyed it. Also just want to give a big shout out to my sponsors for this year, Infinite Disc, DISCRAFT Underground Team, and my new sponsor for this year, Atlas Disc Golf Supply. They've made an incredible bag. But guys, these companies are incredible. It's such an honor and a pleasure to represent them. So please go and support them. Make sure to hit me up if you want a discount code to any of these sites. I'd be happy to provide that for you. But guys, as always, thanks for watching. Be sure to tune in for any future videos. But I appreciate all the support, and I'll see you in the next one.